To the Indigenous people of Windorah, Windorah means big fish and refers to the large yellow belly found in the deep waterholes in the nearby Coopers Creek.
Howdy everybody, I'm standing on the banks of Coopers Creek at the moment, which is 12 k's out of a town called Windorah, population 60 people. The town itself is only about 4 blocks by 4 blocks, so you can grid the whole town in 2 seconds and never get lost. It's in the Barcoo Basin, which is a catchment area about the size of Tasmania. It can get pretty hot out here, as you can imagine. This position here, on the edge of the Coopers, it's only about 12 kilometres outside of Windorah. The Cooper Creek was named by Charles Sturt back in 1845 after a Mr Cooper who was a judge in Adelaide. That's been a pretty impressive judge to have a creek named after him. Sturt never named it river because it didn't have a current. It wasn't flowing when he saw it, so he just called it a creek. As you can see behind me, it's a pretty big river when it wants to be. And we're not really all that far from the start of it in the catchment area for the mainly for Lake Eyre. But the Coopers runs all the way down through Inaminka and onto Lake Eyre when there's a lot of water. The Coopers also lined with some pretty impressive Australiana. You've got red gum and ghost gum. It's got a bit of everything along its banks, including at the moment, here and there, wildflowers and some pretty specky looking bushes. You may remember the floods last year, late last year, bad floods that killed a lot of the cattle north of here, and you can see by the water that's come down through here just how high and how much water it was from the exposed roots behind me sticking out the bank. The other thing is Banjo Patterson wrote a poem, I think it was Banjo wrote it, called the Mad Jack and His Cockatoo. It goes something like this, from what I can remember. There's a man that went out in the flood, rain or drought by the banks of the outer Barcoo, and they called him Mad Jack because the swag on his back was a perch for an old cockatoo. Now one day when the heat was a thing hard to beat, Mad Jack and his old cockatoo came in from the west to the old swagman's rest, and they ordered 4 schooners for 2. Now that goes on for quite a while and I can't really remember the rest of it, but it's also a song, and I think if you want to, you can Google it. I'm pretty sure Banjo Patterson wrote it. There's not a lot to see in Windorah. You've got the 12-kilometre environmental drive or walk. Pretty keen to walk 12 kilometres out in this country, especially this time of the year onwards. Right, the information centre has got an interesting little museum in there. And then you've got Sando's Sandhill, about 12, everything's 12 kilometres here, 12 kilometres out the other side of town. Nobody seems to know who Sando was, but it's called Sando's Sand Dune, big red bugger. Goes quite red at night, a bit spectacular. Back in town, you've only got the one general store with the fuel pumps. You've also got the hotel, of course. Just about every town's got a hotel, which is only open a couple of hours in the morning and a few hours in the afternoon. Restricted, I would say, because of COVID. Now, there's also the murals on the water tanks, which have been painted by a local artist. And I'm standing in front of this not overly large building, which used to be the courthouse in the police yard, until it was moved from there and put here. Now, after that it was used for a long time as a spare parts shed for truck parts. Then there was a drover called Tarpo, who eventually retired from droving and then spent the rest of his life living in this. And I've been told that he used to sit out the front here and with a cup of tea all day, every day, and if you wanted to have a yarn, you could stop and he'd have a talk with you. The other feature of this huge building is the 2 doors, which we can only assume is the guilty party used to get marched in one door, front up to the magistrate or wherever it was out here, and then marched out the other door. So other than that, I can't think of any reason why it'd have 2 doors in a building this size. If you look up under the veranda on this extreme building, it's got a fair gap between the top of the walls and the roof itself. and it's got a ceiling inside, and in between the ceiling and the roof it's a big air gap. So it's a form of very early air conditioning to keep the building cool, probably from, in extreme heat, probably from about 50 degrees down to about 42. And behind me we've got Windorah's unique solar energy plant. Now these dishes behind me focus the reflected sunlight as they track it from morning till night automatically into the centre collector, which is a photovoltaic cell. It actually magnifies the sun 500 times. So that's pretty bright. You wouldn't want to look into it, I can tell you. That'll be the end of it. However, it was enough to just about power the whole town, and the generator, which is situated in the shed next to it, which is their only other form of power, you saved about 10,000 litres a year, I think it was, in diesel when this was working. Now when I say was working, unfortunately they miscalculated and things got too expensive to maintain it and remote out here, and unfortunately it hasn't worked for about 3 years or more. And there's obviously a big problem with maintaining and reining in the costs of solar power, especially this form. I'd also add that this is Ergon Energy's first attempt at this groundbreaking solar energy generation, and which proved a bit of a failure, as I said. But they're also known as sunflower dishes because they follow the sun. Overnight they reset themselves, ready to go again the next day, or they used to.
They were going to take them away, but the community wanted to keep them as a bit of a tourist site, so they're still here. This particular dish they left facing down towards the ground because it gives such a good reflection of the different colours, all the reds and the greens. Another attraction just across the road from there, a small environment park walk. Come with me and we'll go and have a look. This says, "Welcome to Windorah, the rugged art garden." Very bushy, has been created by the people of Windorah. Meandering red dirt pathway represents Cooper's Creek as it wanders through the Channel Country. And our big fish positioned at the entrance to the pathway is leading you on your journey upstream. It's only a small sculpture park, but it's good. If you can get the right angle so you can look through them into the sky, it makes the statues stand out even more.
When we leave the dry and dusty Coopers area here, we're heading further northwest to a place called Windorah, and in between here and Windorah we will cross the proper Channel catchment area country. It's about nearly 380 kilometres from memory, and then from Windorah we'll be heading north up to Mount Isa, which compared to out here is the big smoke. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us the thumbs up, subscribe, make a comment. Good ones we hope. We'll catch up with you next time.